Listen carefully. Financial experts are literally shouting that the year 2025 could become the year of the worst economic crisis since 2008. And what's surprising is that if everything happens with the same force as last time, it could involve 8,700,000 people losing their jobs by the year 2026. But here is what the press won't tell you. While everyone panics over their investment portfolios, smart people quietly stock up on 11 specific items. And to be honest, most people have no idea what awaits us. So if you want to protect your family when grocery store shelves are empty and ATMs stop working, you should sign up now and stay with us to learn about every item on this list, because by the time your neighbors realize what is happening, it will be too late. Let's start with something that can literally save your life, and it's probably not what you think. The first item is cash and small bills. So, imagine. The year is 2021 Texas. The power grid has just collapsed. Millions of people sit in the dark. And you know what? Their dear credit cards and Apple Pay became utterly useless pieces of plastic overnight. I speak of people who could not buy water, refuel, or even buy a chocolate bar because all payment systems were shut down. The only ones who could acquire anything were those with cash in their wallets. And what is truly frightening is that most Americans now have less than $400 in cash. Think about it for a second. $400. That's about 2 weeks' worth of groceries. But wait, it gets worse. The government website, ready.gov, literally tells you to keep cash and small bills because, I quote, cards and credit cards may not work during a disaster. They effectively acknowledge that our entire payment system could just stop functioning. I understand who carries cash nowadays, right? We all pay with phones and cards. But remember, when was the last time your area had a power outage for more than a few hours? Remember how quickly everything came to a halt? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So here's what you need to do. I mean, this weekend. You need to have 3 to 6 months of your basic expenses in cash, but not in your checking account. We're talking about real physical money. And here's the key point. It must be small denominations. We're talking about 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. Imagine trying to buy something for $10, paying with a $100 bill when the register can't give change, and there's no electricity to check anything. You are essentially giving away $90 for nothing. It is not wise. It is simply expensive. But cash is just the beginning, because when the stores run out of food, and believe me, that will happen, you will need the next items from this list. The second point is long-term food storage. So, the second point will surprise you. Honestly, I learned this lesson from my own experience during the lockdowns of the year 2020. This is what might keep you awake at night. Experts say that if we face a new economic depression, a loaf of bread could cost you $100. Yes, you heard that right. $100 for bread. I remember standing in empty supermarkets in March 2020, looking at completely empty shelves where rice and pasta used to be. And this was just a small problem in the supply chain. Imagine what will happen when the entire system fails. But here is what most people misunderstand about food storage. They think they need to buy expensive survival kits that taste like cardboard. You're mistaken. Recent studies by preparation specialists show that you should stock up on the foods you actually eat every day. I am talking about rice, beans, canned goods, flour, about what will help feed your family. White rice lasts forever if stored properly. Beans are a source of protein. And here's another interesting fact. Freeze-dried products can be stored for 25 to 30 years. That's longer than most marriages. And keep in mind that with inflation hitting food prices hard in 2025, you are essentially locking in today's prices for the food you will need tomorrow. It's like having a time machine in a store. But seriously, when your kids ask what's for dinner and the stores are empty, you'll thank yourself for having a pantry that resembles a small supermarket. Start buying additional things that you already eat. Your future self will thank you for it. Now let's talk about water filtration systems. By the year 2025, 2/3 of the world's population may face water scarcity. And what really worries me is that by the year 2040, about 1 in 4 children in the world will live under conditions of extreme water stress. But what struck me during the investigation of this issue was that in 2018, in Cape Town, South Africa, a modern city, drinking water literally ran out. People stood in lines with buckets. This is not some distant future scenario. It is happening now. And do you know what happens when a crisis strikes? The water filtration equipment is dismantled instantly. Everyone suddenly realizes they need it. Remember the last time you saw toilet paper during the pandemic? The same will happen with water filters, but now it's not about comfort, it's about survival. I learned this from my own experience during Hurricane Sandy. My friend thought he was smart, stocking up on boxes of bottled water. The problem is that his basement got flooded and all the bottles were contaminated with sewage. Guess what happened? His $200 spent on bottled water became useless plastic, while his neighbor had a simple portable filter costing $50 and drank clean water for weeks, while everyone else fought for the last bottles in the store. Here is what experts don't want you to know. You need several backup systems, not just one filter. This is a beginner's level. The Sawyer mini filtration system removes 99.9% of bacteria and protozoa, fits in your pocket, and can last for thousands of gallons. This is your personal backup system. And for the whole family, the IT Hill water filtration system can purify 7 gallons on a single charge and removes particles as small as 0.001 microns. We talk about filtering literally everything. Water from ponds, rivers, even pools in emergency situations. And here is what will surprise you. Systems powered by gravity, like the Outback emergency filter, can produce 24 gallons a day without electricity, batteries, or anything else. Only gravity. While your neighbors are saving their last bottles, you are producing clean water by the gallons. I understand what you are thinking. This won't happen to me. So thought the residents of Cape Town and the people in Flint, Michigan. This is what everyone thinks until they find themselves with an empty glass under a dry faucet. The truth is that since 1900, more than half of the world's wetlands have disappeared, and our water systems are under increasing stress every year. This is not intimidation. It's simple math. So here's what you need to do. Get at least 3 different filtration methods: a portable straw filter for each family member, a gravity-powered system for home use, and a high-powered system if you really want to be prepared. Because when the cranes dry up, having clean water is not just a matter of comfort, it is a matter of survival. And believe me, you should acquire these devices now while they are still available and inexpensive. Now let's talk about precious metals. This may surprise you. While everyone discusses gold, smart investors quietly accumulate silver. And this is why it could be one of the most important decisions you make in the year 2025. Silver has just reached $36.39 per ounce, nearly 30% higher just for the first half of 2025, hitting a 13-year record. But here's what is really interesting. Some experts predict that the price could reach $100 an ounce. Yes, you heard it right. $100. I understand that when people think of precious metals, they envision gold. It's like when you think of luxury cars. You picture a Ferrari, not a Toyota. But let me tell you this. At a price of about $32 an ounce compared to gold at $3,400, silver is the Toyota that behaves like a Ferrari. What struck me when I began to investigate this issue is that the silver market has been in deficit for 5 consecutive years. We are talking about 180 million ounces, for which demand exceeds supply only in the year 2024. It's like imagining if 118 million people wanted an iPhone, but Apple couldn't produce them. What happens to the price? But here is where it becomes really interesting for crisis preparation. Imagine a situation. The economy collapses. ATMs stop working. Credit cards become useless. You enter a grocery store with a 1-ounce gold coin worth $3,400. You're lucky if you can get change for a $20 purchase, right? But with silver, at a price of $32 an ounce, you have the perfect opportunity for a barter deal. It's like having the exact amount for survival. And here's what's interesting. President Trump's tariff plans are already making smart investors rush to silver warehouses. The signs are clear, my friends. Russia and Mexico, controlling 21% of global silver production, face conflicts and regulatory changes. Supply is becoming increasingly limited each month, but that's not all. Industrial demand for silver is set to reach record heights, over 700 million ounces for the first time in history. Why? Because every solar panel, every electric car, every smartphone needs silver to function. By the year 2050, only solar energy can absorb from 85 to 98% of the current world reserves of silver. So here's what you need to do. And to be honest, it's better to do it before your neighbors figure it out. Start with costume silver. Apartments and dimes until 1965. They are recognizable, divisible, and perfect for small transactions. Then move on to ounce round coins or bars. Kit Neumeyer, the CEO of First Majestic Silver, predicts not just $100 per ounce of silver, but says $130. Other analysts predict $50 by the end of 2025. Even if they are only half wrong, you can still expect huge profits. Listen, I'm not saying you should invest everything in silver, but if you have the chance to buy a few ounces now while the price is still below $40, let's say your future self might thank you for it. When the crisis comes and everyone is frantic in search of real money, you will already have it. But precious metals are just one part of the puzzle. When everything gets really bad, there is something even more valuable than silver or gold. Point 5. Medical supplies and medications. This will surprise you. Right now, while I'm speaking with you, there are 270 active drug shortages in America. And this is not during a crisis. This is today. What is surprising is that more than 40% of these shortages began in the year 2022 or earlier. These are shortages that have been ongoing for years. Let me paint a picture for you. Last month, a mother from Minnesota woke up at 5:30 in the morning because her 4-year-old child had a painful ear infection. She needed children's pain relief medication that every parent should be able to buy in any store, right? You're mistaken. She had to search in several stores, and she could only find 3 bottles with no available generics. This is happening right now in ordinary times. But wait, it gets worse. Almost 500,000 cancer patients suffered from just 2 critical drug shortages this year, specifically vital chemotherapy medications. And if you think that ADHD medications or insulin are safe, think again. ADHD drugs like Adderall and insulin are now in short supply. This is what you need to understand. If the proposed tariffs are accepted, half of the generic medicines in the country may become even scarcer, as they are imported from abroad. So what should you do first? Stock up on basic over-the-counter medications. I'm talking about pain relievers, antihistamines, cold and flu medicines, vitamins, everything your family uses regularly. Not only because pharmacy goods disappear from the shelves during a crisis, but also because basic first aid skills can save lives when medical assistance becomes too expensive. Secondly, if you are taking prescription medications, discuss with your doctor the possibility of obtaining a supply for 90 days instead of 30. Create this supply while you have the opportunity. And thirdly, and this is very important, learn the basics of first aid. Knowledge is the only thing you can accumulate that never takes up space and never becomes outdated. Fortunately, access to education is now free. People are taking advantage of it. Listen, I'm not trying to scare you, but maybe I am. On average, the shortage of medicines affects about 500,000 people, most of whom are aged between 65 and 85. Your parents, your grandparents, they are the most vulnerable. When pharmacies look like empty grocery stores during a lockdown, you will be glad you prepared. Speaking of empty stores, let's discuss the next thing that disappears faster than toilet paper during a pandemic. The 6th point is fuel and alternative energy. So, this is where things get serious. I will tell you a story that will freeze your blood. Then I will show you how to ensure this never happens to your family. February 2021, Texas. Do you remember this? More than 4.5 million people were left without electricity for several days. And here is the part that will surprise you. At least 246 people died. Not from the cold directly, but from what happened when people fell into despair. Listen carefully. Families brought their cars into garages to warm up, using camping stoves in their living rooms. One family, 3 people from the same household, died from carbon monoxide poisoning due to a faulty generator they didn't know how to use. And it was just one storm. Right now, I mean literally right now, America's power grid is hanging by a thread. Experts are shouting about it. We have data centers with artificial intelligence consuming vast amounts of electricity, and our outdated infrastructure cannot handle the load. The authorities of the state of Georgia are literally forced to suspend data center projects due to a lack of electricity. And here's what is important. Just a month ago, there was a massive power outage in Europe, in Spain and Portugal. 7 people died. A 77-year-old woman was on a ventilator at home. When the power went out, her backup battery drained and help did not arrive in time. So yes, generators. Everyone thinks they need them, right? But here's what no one tells you. The supply chain for generators is currently completely disrupted. Large companies like Generac and Cummins were forced to halt production of entire lines of products because they cannot obtain engines. We are talking about generators with a power of 22 to 60 kilowatts. They have simply disappeared. Production has ceased. And even if you find a generator, you still need fuel. During the Texas freeze, guess what happened to the gas stations? They also lost power. No electricity means no fuel. People drove around the city for hours searching for gasoline that didn't exist. But here's the thing. Smart people don't just buy one generator. They build what I call an energy pyramid. On the first level, propane. Store several cylinders weighing 19 kilograms. Why? Because propane is stored indefinitely, works in cold conditions, and can be used for cooking. Generators powered by 2 types of fuel, gasoline and propane, will become your best friends. On the second level, kerosene heaters. This is a real find for unforeseen circumstances. 1 liter of kerosene can heat a room for 14 hours. Unlike gasoline, kerosene can be safely stored for years. On the third level are the batteries. And I'm not talking about simple batteries. Get powerful deep cycle batteries, like those for trailers. Connect them to the inverter, and here you have quiet energy for important needs. But this is where it gets really smart. Solar generators are currently at the peak of popularity. The new EcoFlow Delta Pro can output 3,600 watts. This is enough to keep the refrigerator running, provide lighting, and charge phones for several days. And most importantly, no fuel is required. The sun does all the work. I'm talking about devices with 3,000 watt-hours of storage that can recharge using solar panels in just a few hours. The Jackery Explorer 3000 weighs 63 kilograms, but it has wheels. You can literally roll it from room to room or load it into a car if evacuation is necessary. But listen, this is critically important. Don't wait for everyone else to understand this. Remember what happened during the pandemic with toilet paper? So, when the next major breakdown occurs, generators will become the new equivalent of toilet paper. Problems with the power grid are becoming increasingly relevant. Networks are failing, and those who prepare now will be safe and comfortable while their neighbors are in darkness, both literally and figuratively. Next, we will talk about something that can literally save your life in chaos. Point 7. Tools and supplies for repairs. Here is a story that will amaze you. During the economic crisis in Venezuela, when inflation reached 42,000%, there was a plumber named Carlos. While doctors and lawyers literally exchanged their wedding rings for a loaf of bread, Carlos became the richest man in his neighborhood. Why? Because he could fix things. You see, when society starts to collapse, your college diploma means nothing, but those who can fix a leaking pipe, or a woman who can repair a broken generator, become the kings and queens of the new economy. And here's the thing. You don't need to become a master of all trades overnight. You just need the right tools and basic knowledge. I'm talking about a good set of hand tools, screwdrivers, wrenches, hammers. But the secret weapon that many overlook is duct tape. I know it sounds silly, but listen. The production process of adhesive tape is so complex that it becomes incredibly scarce and valuable during a crisis. You can now buy a roll for $3. During the next collapse, this same roll may cost $30. And it's not just about money. When your neighbor's roof is leaking and the stores are empty, a roll of tape can literally save his home. In an instant, you become not just a person with tools, but a true hero of the neighborhood. So what to do? Gather a basic toolkit. Put in some fasteners, screws, and nails. Stock up on 5 rolls of tape in different colors. And maybe watch a few YouTube videos about simple repairs. Believe me, your future self will be grateful to your present self when it turns out that you are the only one who knows how to fix a broken window or patch a hole. But tools are just the beginning. The 8th item on our list is what has made people happy for thousands of years. 8 is barter goods, a new underground economy. And here is what will surprise you. Right now, while we speak, there is an entire country where people literally exchange cigarettes for bread. I'm talking about Venezuela, where inflation reached a staggering 130,000% just a few years ago. Imagine this. You walk into a store with a bundle of money, and it's not enough to buy even a loaf of bread. This is not a scene from an apocalyptic movie. This is real life, happening right now in the year 2025. And what have people done? They have returned to the Stone Age. But here is the paradox. They are not exchanging stones and sticks. The wise ones, those who foresaw this, stocked up on the right things. One survivor from the Bosnian crisis said a phrase that sent shivers down my spine. Coffee and cigarettes became like gold. People personally exchanged a week's worth of food for a single pack of cigarettes or a small bag of coffee beans. I'm not saying you should start smoking or drinking if you don't, but listen to what I'm about to say, as it could save your family's life. First, alcohol. And before you roll your eyes, listen. During the Great Depression, a bottle of whiskey could provide you with food for a month. Why? Because when the human world collapses, they seek something to relax. Plus, alcohol has medical uses. It disinfects, alleviates pain, and does not spoil. What most people don't know is that you don't need expensive things. A $15 bottle of vodka can be worth $150 in times of crisis. And small alcohol bottles are a real find for barter trade, as they are perfect for a single serving. Coffee. Oh, that's really important. In Bosnia, people said that coffee became more valuable than medicine. Think about it. Half the country is actually dependent on caffeine. When Starbucks closes and the stores are empty, who will have a supply of instant coffee? Packs of instant coffee are genius. They are light, store well, and can be exchanged one by one. I am talking about those small individual packets. Each of them can cost a whole meal in conditions of hyperinflation. Then comes tobacco and cigarettes. I understand that smoking is terrible for health, but it's about survival. Almost half of Americans have some kind of addiction. When people experience intense stress, they start reaching for their bad habits. A pack of cigarettes that costs $60 today can easily be exchanged for goods worth $600 during a crisis. One man I read about exchanged one bar for 3 days of food for his family. And here's the funny part: chocolate and sweets. It may sound silly, but when was the last time you went more than a week without something sweet? During the siege of Sarajevo, people said chocolate was like a little piece of paradise. Hard candies are perfect because they hardly spoil. A bag of candy costing $3 can provide food for your family for several days through trade. But here's what most channels won't tell the prepared: time is everything. In Venezuela, people have started creating private groups on social networks just for trading goods. They use hashtags like #, which translates from Spanish to barter, to find exchange partners. Those who survive are those who began stockpiling these things before the crisis hit. Not after the stores were empty, not when their money became worthless. Before. Look, I'm not saying that the USA will become Venezuela tomorrow, but economic experts are literally warning that the year 2025 could be the year when everything changes. And when that happens, you want to be the person who has supplies to trade, not the one desperately searching for them. Start small. Next time you're at the store, grab an extra bottle of cheap vodka, a few packets of instant coffee, and maybe a box of cigarettes if you can afford it. Put them in a safe and dry place. Your future self may thank you for this, but there is one category of goods that is more important than luxury items, and most people completely ignore it until it is too late. The 9th point is personal hygiene and sanitation. Let's talk about what no one wants to discuss, but everyone needs to care about personal hygiene and sanitation. I understand that this is not the most appealing topic, but here is a reality that will quickly bring you to your senses. Did you know that during the flu pandemic of 19, more people died not from the virus, but from poor sanitation? Seriously, when systems break down, basic hygiene becomes a matter of life and death. And now, when supply chains are already exhausted, these goods will disappear faster than toilet paper did in the year 2020. The first is garbage bags. I'm talking about sturdy bags for construction waste. Why? Because when you can no longer take out the trash, when your sewage system stops working, when you need to dispose of medical waste, these bags become your first line of defense against diseases. Stock up on at least 200 packets of various sizes. Trust me. Soap. And I mean real soap, not just hand sanitizer. Bars of soap last a long time. Require no electricity. This is indeed more effective against viruses than most expensive antiseptics. It's better to choose unscented ones, as fragrant products attract insects and rodents. Here's what's interesting. Women's hygiene products are now recognized by FEMA as essential items for survival. We're talking about half the population. These products have a shelf life of over 5 years and will become real gold in a crisis situation. Also cleaning agents, bleaches, disinfectants, and laundry powder. When was the last time you saw empty shelves in a store? March 2020, right? Multiply that panic by 10 when people realize this is not a 2-week lockdown. The next point is seeds and materials for their cultivation. Here we move from survival to prosperity. It is truly wonderful. One packet of heirloom tomato seeds costs about $3 and can produce up to 200 pounds of food. This is better than any investment portfolio right now, especially with food inflation reaching 25% in some regions. My neighbor started growing food during the quarantine just as a hobby. Fast forward to today, she now feeds her family of 4 with fresh vegetables all year round and saves over $3,000 annually on groceries. These are real seeds in your pocket. But here's the key point. Heirloom seeds, not hybrid or genetically modified. Heirloom seeds produce plants that yield more seeds. Thus, you create a renewable source of food for centuries. These seeds can be stored for 10, 20 years, if kept properly in a cool, dry place. Start simple. Beans, salad, tomatoes, herbs. Acquire basic gardening tools while they are inexpensive. A shovel, a hand hoe, a watering can. Nothing complicated. And here's a useful tip. Learn to preserve what you have grown. Canning, drying, fermentation. Because what is the point of a large harvest if it all rots? Vertical farming systems are on the rise now. You can grow food indoors year-round using LED lights. The initial setup costs about $200, but you will have fresh food regardless of the weather, season, or supply chain issues. The next point is knowledge and skills. And finally, the most important thing you can accumulate, and it is absolutely free, is knowledge and skills. This is the harsh truth that no one talks about. When everything goes wrong, it's not those with the most possessions who survive, but those who can do something, fix, create, heal. I spoke with a man who survived the economic crisis in Argentina. Do you know what he said was the most valuable? Not gold, not food supplies. These were people who could repair machines, women who knew herbal medicine, neighbors who could fix electronics. These people never experienced hunger because everyone needed their skills. So, what skills should one master? The basics of first aid. I'm talking about applying tourniquets, caring for wounds, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, food preservation, canning, smoking, fermentation, basic repairs, plumbing, electricity, mechanics, and even sewing. All of this becomes incredibly valuable when new things are unavailable. But here is the secret. Build these connections now. Join local groups, attend courses, help your neighbors, because the strongest communities are those that survive and grow together. Only wolves do not cope in a real crisis. And interestingly, digital skills are becoming survival skills too. Learn to use radio communication, solar energy systems, and water filtration technologies. The future is not about returning to the Stone Age. It lies in the combination of old wisdom with new technologies. Look, you can buy all the resources in the world, but if you don't know how to use them, cannot adapt, and work with others, you are just a well-prepared victim. So choose one skill this month, just one. Learn it, practice it, perfect it, because when everyone else panics, you will be the one they turn to for help. And this is real security. So here is what you need to do right now. Choose one item from this list, just one, and get it this week. Don't think too long. Don't wait for next month. Don't make excuses. Leave a comment and write from which point you are starting. I read every message. And if this video opened your eyes to what awaits us, don't forget to subscribe, because I have many more materials on preparing for crises that could literally save your family. Time is passing, people. Do not be those who will be left without help when it happens.